You ever see someone cleaning toilets and think, man, that's probably the last person on earth who'd ever set foot on a stage at Carnegie Hall? Yeah, 15 years ago. That was Romina Carter's whole world. Fast forward. She's in a scratchy uniform scrubbing floors at the Hallberg mansion, and the closest she gets to music is humming under her breath. You know what I mean? Funny thing about being invisible, you learn to listen. You catch all the stuff people say when they don't think you matter. So picture this. It's some ridiculous hour of the morning, dew on the grass, big old house looming up on a hill, and Romy's gliding through the back in trance with her badge, like a shadow. Switching out her jeans for that gray uniform. Gladys, the head housekeeper, gives her that raised eyebrow. You're early again, Romy. But Romy's always early. Safe and routine. Nobody's got expectations, and that's how she likes it. At least, that's what she tells herself. The day drags by, nothing new. Just dust and polish and 1,000 reminders of how rich people never see the hands that make their world sparkle. But somewhere around 9, this slow, aching Chopin nocturne floats in from the next room. Romy freezes, dust rag midair, her whole body remembering what her brain spent years trying to forget. She peeks in, and there's some guy at the piano, talented, sure, probably a hired performer for Douglas Hallberg's next charity circus. And, out of nowhere, Jacob Hallberg, the good son, the one nobody ever talks about, shows up behind her. Starts chatting about music like he doesn't notice she's staff. Romy's used to keeping her head down, so she mutters, "Yes, sir, very beautiful." But the way his eyes linger, it's like he actually sees her. Which, frankly, is more terrifying than being invisible. And then Marissa Hallberg swoops in, all pearls and perfection, pointing out imaginary dust and making snide comments about uniforms. Romy shrugs it off. Been here before, right? But you can feel the temperature drop when Marissa starts scheming. Because when rich girls get bored, someone always pays the price. By afternoon, the place is crawling with guests, art dealers, donors, the whole parade. Quinn, the estate manager, slides up, acting like Romy should have read his mind about flower arrangements. Blooming vases, not crystal, he says, like it's the most important thing on earth. And then Douglas Hallberg himself breezes in, eyes scanning the room, never really landing on the people who make his world run. But for some reason, today he notices Romy. "You play?" he asks, nodding at the piano. She shrugs. "A little, sir." Marissa can barely contain her glee. "Maybe she'll play at the gala, Daddy." Douglas thinks it's hilarious. Why not let the help perform for the guests? For fun, you know? Like a party trick. Romy's heart is pounding, memories of standing under the bright lights at Carnegie Hall flashing through her mind, her mother whispering, "Promise me you'll keep playing." But she's not that girl anymore, is she? Just a maid, invisible, forgettable. At least that's what she hopes. That night, Romy sits in her cramped apartment, staring at the old suitcase beneath her bed. She finally drags it out. Dusty sheet music, a faded photo of her and her mentor, Leo Tucker. A legend in jazz, and the only person who ever really believed in her. She unrolls a portable keyboard on the kitchen table, slips on her headphones, and lets her hands remember what her heart still aches for. Back at the estate, Marissa is hosting her own private roast. "Can you believe the maid thinks she can play piano?" she laughs. The cruelty is casual, like it doesn't even register as mean. That's how power works, right? But here's the twist. Jacob, the son who left, is watching. He's not buying the staff showcase narrative. Not after seeing the way Romy touched those keys earlier. He offers her real sheet music, not the kiddie arrangements Quinn drops off. And then, in the library, a stranger named Elliot shows up, music critic, mid-40s, sharp-eyed. Accidentally spots a printout with her name from a long-ago Carnegie Hall program. "Are you Rona Carter?" he asks. A little awe in his voice. She deflects, dodges, but you can feel the truth bubbling just under the surface. Days pass. Romy keeps her head down, but the whispers are spreading. The staff talk. Jacob digs into her past online and finds an old article, "Prodigy vanished after tragedy." It stirs something in him. And Elliot? He's now PR for the gala, which means he'll be right there, watching. The day of the gala is a storm in Romy's chest. Her own music, her real voice, is missing, stolen from her locker, obviously trashed by Marissa. Desperate, she sifts through garbage and finds the pages, crumpled but readable. Elliot shows up with photos of the missing music he'd taken. "I can print these," he says, giving her back what was nearly lost for good. It's the smallest kindnesses that crack a heart open. That night, Jacob finds Romy at the piano, tells her, Leo Tucker's coming. Panic, hope, everything all at once. Romy slips back in after hours to practice in the empty grand hall. Moonlight, silence, her hands on the keys. She plays the piece she wrote for herself, not for show, not for survival, but because it's the only way she knows how to be alive. And then Leo's voice from the shadows. "You've grown, little bird." The reunion is everything. Tears, forgiveness. The understanding that you can't really lose your gift. It just waits for you to come back for it. "Play for me," Leo says, and Romy does. Gala night arrives. The rich and powerful swirl in. Glasses clink, Marissa preens. Douglas introduces Romy as the staff talent, smug and condescending. Romy sits at the piano in a borrowed black dress, hands trembling. For a moment she thinks, maybe I'll just play Mozart, disappear again. But then she sees Leo, Jacob, Elliot in the crowd, and something inside her says, no, not tonight. She plays her own piece, a blend of classical and jazz, heartbreak and healing, everything she's been holding inside for 15 years. At first, people fidget, expecting a joke. But the music swells, builds, and soon there's a hush. Faces change. Tears fall. The room is spellbound. Romy pours every bit of herself into the keys, the years of hiding, the grief, the resilience. The final note hangs in the air like a prayer. There's a pause, long, sacred, and then Leo starts to clap, slow and proud. The applause erupts. People rise to their feet. Even the critics are stunned silent. Douglas is left sitting, shocked. His joke has turned into a reckoning. A director from Curtis Institute stands, offers Romy a fellowship on the spot. Marissa flees in humiliation. Romy bows, then slips off stage, overwhelmed, tears streaming down her face in a darkened corridor. The next morning, Romy wakes to chaos. Her performance has gone viral. The world sees her, finally, not as the help, but as the artist she always was. The phone blows up with offers, interviews, invitations. Douglas scrambles for PR cover. Marissa is exposed for her cruelty, but Romy? She's not interested in revenge. She takes her time, visits her dying mentor Leo in the hospital, says goodbye, promises to keep teaching music the way he taught her. And here's where it gets real. The world wants Romy on every stage, but she says no to the money, the spotlight, and starts a school in Harlem for kids like her. A place where talent trumps status, where music is for anyone who can't afford lessons or pianos. She hires Gladys, welcomes Jacob, reconnects with her estranged half-sister and her father, finds healing in places she thought were lost forever. Even Douglas tries to make it right with anonymous donations. But this isn't his redemption story. Years later, a young girl named Zoe Wilson walks into Romy's school, hands trembling on the keys, her voice shaking. Romy smiles, sits beside her, and says, "Now play it how it feels." Because the gift isn't just being heard, it's passing it on, making sure the next little girl with big dreams and small chances knows she's not invisible. So yeah, maybe you should look twice at the person wiping down the counter or scrubbing your floor. You never know whose story you're walking past. If you've ever been overlooked, if you've ever felt invisible, if you believe that talent and courage should matter more than a last name or a zip code, share this story, leave a comment. Tell me, who else do we need to see? Really see in this world?